explore design as a spiritual practice, and we explore the path of entrepreneurship, of creativity, of many different professional paths, and how we can align them with our spiritual aspirations, and how we can look at practical tools and strategic tools used by professionals and many creative professionals, designers, and startup founders that I know, and how we can live and work in a very holistic way by embracing that as part of our spiritual journey. So welcome everyone. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Feel free to use the chat on the side. I'd love to learn a bit more about who's joining us in the session today. And I'm firstly going to ask, where are you joining us from? And if you like, as a bonus, what book did you last read? This is also a nice way to grow our reading list with good recommendations from different seekers, creatives, professionals, and students and learners from all over the world. What are we reading? What are we learning? So where are you joining us from? And what book did you last read? Why don't you share it there in the chat on the right if you're comfortable doing that? And it's a good way to get to know. I noticed already we've got some friends joining us from different places. I can see Farouk is joining us from Iraq and has stayed up all night at 3 a.m. to join us. So welcome Farouk, Assalamu alaikum, and very happy to have you in the session with us. Irwan is here, Noor is here, welcome. Lena's joining us as well. Sylvie, Ansar, Mohammed Yusuf, welcome. Ali's joining from Boston in the US. A very interesting book recommendation there. Maria's joining from Canada. Welcome, great to see you. Some really cool book recommendations. Navira from California, welcome. Mabash, Rola, there's some, wow, look, everyone joining. We've got Zainab from Maryland, welcome. Reggie's from Toronto, welcome. Great book recommendation. Sultan from Australia, great to have you with us in the session. And we've got Saqib joining from Glasgow in Scotland. Alhamdulillah, great to have you here. The last book he read is Rumi, Bridge to the Soul. By the way, if you didn't manage to finish any of your books, that's still okay. We are very welcome. And many of us are navigating a lot of incoming information, books, resources, podcasts. And part of the Heart of Design is the result of my effort personally as a designer, as a seeker, as a father, as a husband, as a human, distilling lots of information and sources and teachers from both the design and professional entrepreneurial path and from the spiritual path, from my journey being Muslim for the last 20 years or more, and distilling these down, these different gems and useful tools, tips, resources, and practical steps that I've been able to learn from my teachers, from other entrepreneurs that I look up to, and successful people, and successful in a holistic way, not just financially and in terms of impact in the world, but in terms of people that I look up to as good role models. So the Heart of Design is really an attempt to distill and synthesize and share the best of that knowledge, and inshallah in a practical way, share that, and as a group of people, as a cohort from around the world, go together and take your idea, take your concept or your vision, and develop that further towards a more actionable series of steps or a plan that aligns these sometimes conflicting aspirations together and looks at ways to bring them together using practical tools. So we've got lots more people joining. Thank you everyone for making the time. And it's really wonderful that we can join. Rana's joining from Lebanon where it's 2 a.m. Thank you so much for staying up and being with us on the call. Noor's been reading Brené Brown, Atlas of the Heart, and another excellent book recommendation there. And we've got Tasneem joining us from Detroit, Michigan, as a photographer. Walaikum salam. So guys, I think what I'd like to do is just share a little bit about the program and a little bit about what is the Heart of Design and what you could expect if you're going to enroll with us. We'll also have a special guest a little later to share more about their experience with the program. And I'll be very happy to answer any questions. What you can actually do is share questions at any point. So I'd love to see that chat light up. If you have questions as we go through, please feel free to ask them. It can be practical things about the course. It can be whatever you like. Please go ahead. I have one of my team members with us live, Lena, so she can help manage any of those questions. And we also have some alumni joining us. So we've had, alhamdulillah, over 300 people now go through the program since I launched about 2 years or more ago, and really would love to benefit from their wisdom as well. First thing that I think is important to do, especially in our age of distraction and our age of digital attention seeking by many apps and projects and software or AI are in our life, is just to take a moment to have a breath, calm down, and find some presence together. I think that we're often in a state of busyness, we're in a state where our cognitive load is very heavy, we're very high, and we're being pulled in different directions. Inshallah, the Heart of Design is an attempt to have a place where every week we can find some presence and focus and think about what is meaningful to us and think about the priorities we want to make for ourselves and our paths in our spiritual journey. And that all starts with just taking a moment of silence, a moment of presence. If you are on a spiritual path, maybe that's making a prayer, or Muslims might say a dua of why you're here and making an intention. What do we hope to get out of this journey? What is it that made you curious about joining the Heart of Design session? And just taking a pause, maybe a water, having a breath, and then making our intention to start and benefit from our time together. Bismillah. So I'd like to just give a very brief distillation over the next 10 minutes or so, why the Heart of Design came together and why it might be relevant or interesting for you to consider to join as an attendee. Where did this come from? So over the last 20 years or more, alhamdulillah, I've been on a spiritual path, I've been Muslim, but I've also taken an entrepreneurial path of being a designer, running a design studio. I've been able to work with many amazing companies in many different locations and help companies or organizations, sometimes individuals, develop and launch their ideas and develop and launch them to audiences that resonate with their vision, help them have impact and reach, but also grow strong as companies, as organizations, and become financially sustainable. And as a person in this journey, what I started to reflect upon is I've distilled these two spheres that are sometimes at tension with one another, sometimes pulling one another. And this little graphic you see here is what the Heart of Design is attempting to address. And it will mean different things to different people. But for me, I tried to summarize them like this. On the right-hand side, we have our spiritual aspirations. We have where we want to be and go. We might have learned from our teachers or our books in our reading, where we see our role and our purpose in the world, the very deepest level. But sometimes at tension with that is the worldly impact that we feel like we'd like to try and be a part of or contribute. Maybe it's helping different communities. Maybe it's building an app or a project or launching an organization or building some kind of product that we think is meaningful. And that requires a lot of worldly effort, requires a lot of entrepreneurial tools and thinking and perhaps investment or perhaps design skills to help prototype and develop. And we would like out of that some kind of financial sustainability. We need that to make our products and brands work well and be meaningful and be sustainable and have a good business model that will maybe also give us some material comfort, some good way to live for our families to be comfortable and happy and safe and living comfortably. But on the other hand, we know that none of that means anything if we don't have that inner wealth, that inner tranquil heart. We're in that place, if you like, in Islamic terminology, you might say, being in a state of sakina or a state of rida, of acceptance, of surrender, being in a happy internal place, a state of contentment. How can we do all of these things? Well, the design with heart approach is the way that I've personally tried to explore and reconcile these two things together. And the Heart of Design course is really a practical way of sharing how we might go about doing those things. So I'm going to give just a brief tour through the different modules. So the course goes for 5 weeks, and each module we have a particular set of content that I will talk through, usually for about an hour. Then we have an hour of conversation, of activities that we can start working on to help build our knowledge around these topics. And we also have a community, a Slack community, which is like a conversation tool. I think of it as like WhatsApp, but not annoying. So it's like a more structured conversation tool that cohort and class members from around the world are able to chat and share their activities and exercises each week. That said, I do make all of the homework optional because we're all at different seasons of life. Some people may have a lot of time and they want to dive deep into the activities and do extra reading, and there's our optional extra tasks each week. And others might be a very, very busy parent with kids and a full time role, but they're just seeking maybe another path or a new opening to help them through this program and don't have time for the activities. So everything is okay. Everyone is welcome. So module one is all about embracing design and understanding the role and potential of design in our world. So we really go deep and we think beyond what some people may perceive and think of as when you ask design. They might think graphic designer, fashion designer, product designer. We go a little deeper and think more fundamentally about the role and nature of design and how it affects us every day, and how every experience we have, whether it's joining this online platform we are now, or whether it's ordering something on your phone, all of this is in a designed experience solving problems. So we look at how also in our age, there's a lot of design for distraction. There's a lot of design for making us want to buy things, sell us things, designed for consumerism and commercialism. And we explore at what point in that spectrum we think is the right place to be. It's okay to sell something, of course, it's okay to be sustainable, but we have conversations around what is the role of design at a more deeper level. Perhaps we can design for remembrance rather than design for distraction. So we look at design thinking in particular as a transformational mindset and set of tools. When I did my Stanford design course, I was able to learn and apply a number of these things and then use them in practice professionally for a number of very large companies and many beautiful organizations. So I give examples from my experience in doing that. But in particular, this third one is very relevant, is thinking how can we reframe personal goals or community goals or aspirations we might have, instead of just being a goal or a problem, but we look at them as a design challenge. So how can we design to help solve this cause that's meaningful to us or our family or our community? And we look then at everything in the course as a design challenge and how we can iterate towards finding healthy and holistic ways to solve those problems and address those challenges. Second module is where we really get into I think the heart of the topic, and one of my favorite modules, called Design with Heart. So we look more directly at an approach at how we can align our inner personal aspirations, our spiritual goals, and enrich our work and our thinking, how we think about the nature of our work in a very purposeful way. And we do that looking at some specific tools and concepts that help us think about success in a different way, help us think about our spiritual life and the goals that we have beyond commercial outcomes. One of the challenges that I found in maybe the first 10 years of my professional journey was that I felt this tension between most of the resources that I was reading were very much in either in one camp around design, entrepreneurship, startups, and spending time with startup leaders and successful founders, podcasts, books, lots of pitch nights, gatherings, learning how people start and build successful businesses. And I spent time in Silicon Valley. I lived in San Francisco for a time. I lived in Dubai for a time. On the other hand, I was spending time with spiritual teachers, and alhamdulillah had access to and still have access to great and beautiful spiritual thinkers and scholars who deeply understood the tradition of our timeless spiritual journey. And my attempt in module 2 is how I've been able to try to reconcile and bring these two things together in my own journey. And I'm sharing with you some of the tools that I've found personally very helpful at embracing these two together. And we start to then get some more clarity on envisioning our journey and how this would apply to your ideas and hopes and aspirations you might have. In module 3, we go for more direct action. How do we then take these mindsets and how do we take this more transformative understanding of entrepreneurship, design, and creative practice on your idea? And how we directly build that with specific tools and strategic tools used by startups that I know, design leaders that I've learned from or taught with or been a part of to help us find that clarity and find our directions. And we start looking at a business model or a framework for how you could start testing and iterating towards real progress on what your ideas might be. Now, people ask me, is this program for graphic designers? Is it for a startup founder? Is it for someone who's a creative professional? Is it for someone who's none of those things? Well, the answer is that I'm happy to share in the 300 people that have come through so far, we've had a very broad and diverse group of individuals from lots of different backgrounds. Some who have little or no experience in design or creative practice or very few connections to that. I've had lawyers come through, I've had people with engineering background. I'm pleased to share that almost all of them, I think all of them to my knowledge actually have had a very positive set of feedback that they found these applicable and helpful. Because sometimes we might not be wanting to launch a business or develop our idea commercially as a product, but we might just be looking for new ways to think about our career path or an opening, or looking at how a designer mindset and these kind of tools might just help us open up that next chapter, or give us some new insights or thinking or opportunities and ways of thinking about testing our ideas in our current career path. So there's many ways to benefit from the program. Module 4, finding the way. So this is now how we look specifically at creating some steps together. And this is great where we start working as small groups. So we have breakout sessions. By the way, in the current session coming up, we've got some really incredible people joining. We have quite a few people from Google as well joining the next cohort. So excited to give people opportunity to join with and meet with and be in some breakout rooms with people from in positions of leaderships and creative insight that I think will be very beneficial. In this module, we're also looking at how do we overcome these setbacks and challenges and tribulations that we all face, and how we start reframing those as ways for learning, but not just conceptually, practically. What are the tools that different design teams and design leaders and creative teams use to then progress their idea and not fall and get disheartened, but look at ways to keep taking them forward. And we also bring in a guest entrepreneur or design leader or creative leader who can share their story, and we get inspired by we can have direct access to that person's success and ask them questions about their journey, and we can get very specific and granular. You might have a specific business or idea you're already building. You can ask for individual questions about how they might do that, or they might be more general and just seeking inspiration and a lift to the week. A busy week, you might just be looking for just a lift, and having the companionship, the sahba, is very much at the heart of this whole journey. Is what is a beautiful journey among all of us as we learn together over these 5 weeks. And the 5th module, which I really love, is illuminating the road, sharing the way with others, how we take our ideas and our aspirations and make that very much a part of working with people rather than marketing at someone or a sales pitch at someone. Working with an understanding and seeing our fellow audiences as people we care about, as people that we want to succeed together, and how we can develop a community of like-hearted individuals around our ideas that we're hoping to develop. Or if it's a product we're trying to build, how do we build a good early following of people that also resonate with that? And I give some examples, of course, throughout the program of my own experiences and others I know that learned from that have, I think, done this very well. And looking also realistically that a lot of us are busy. A lot of us are in a season of life that means that I have a lot of demands on our time. And I truly respect that for everyone who joins the course, that this is not meant to be a burden on your time. This is meant to be a very enriching set of tools that you can keep coming back to. And you, of course, get all the recordings and assets, and the community is a lifelong opening that you can keep joining and join anytime and revisit. There's a great alumni network as well. And look at how we have a work-life integration. So rather than just thinking of this as a dream you might have one day in the future, how we can actually keep making progress even in a small and consistent way, and finding that companionship. We look at very much the communities and how we can keep seeking support and resource inspiration from them, and just staying that course. What are some useful tools and ways to just make sure that even after these 5 weeks, we're growing, flourishing, and maintaining momentum? And there's lots of great and beautiful stories from the Heart of Design community that have grown and met in different parts of the world, and have achieved great things together in different ways. So you would be joining that community that I hope you'd all benefit from and be a part of. So what I'd love to do now is actually bring up one of our alumni, who I'll bring just to the stage now. So Noor is someone that came through the program a little while back, and I thought was a great example of really embodying what the program was about, and she agreed to kindly come on. So I might bring Noor up here and ask you a little about your experience. So Noor, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining.
Walaikum assalam, Peter. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, how's everything going? You're doing well? It's so I'm in summer in Australia at the moment, and you're in winter and probably surviving a winter. You're doing okay over there?
Doing okay, surviving, making it through. We've survived some pretty intense snow in December. It's relatively mild right now, so enjoying it as much as possible, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Well, thanks so much, Noor. One, for being able to join the session and maybe share a bit about your experience, but also just coming through the program, and I think being a great contributor to that cohort that we had. I think maybe you could tell us a bit about your experience, and if, of course, there's anyone who's on the session, feel free to ask questions. You can type them straight into the chat there, and myself or even Noor can share hers as well. So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you joined and what was your experience like with the Heart of Design?
Oh, definitely, I'd be happy to. So I enrolled in the Heart of Design. It was the summer of 2021. So June 2021 was the cohort I was very grateful to be a part of. I, at that point, had been photographing professionally, portraits and events and weddings for about 13 years, but was working in a very dry corporate environment and had this idea that there has to be more out there. There has to be a better way to work and to approach earning. Um, and so, what I appreciated the most about the program was, well, firstly, the concept of lightheartedness and being part of a lighthearted community, because the journey can be really lonely at times, especially if we're surrounded with people who have very different perspectives. Um, and and also the reading list that was introduced throughout. So I'm currently working on The Artist's Way, taking myself on regular artist dates. Well, inshallah, so if all of you will be participating, you'll be introduced to that. And my goal wasn't necessarily to create, develop my brand further or to create a product, but really to, I guess, yeah, use design ideas to my life and what I wanted life to feel like and look like. Even small concepts like asking better questions, the idea of iteration. So sometimes I might take one path that might not be the best fit. So sitting down, asking better questions, reapproaching. So all of those concepts I found really beautiful. And I guess about like a year and a half later or so, I am in a new job that I really love, reapproaching my photography with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh heart, and just really enjoying continuing that creative approach to life in general.
Alhamdulillah, that's wonderful to hear. And what was it like? I think one thing you said that's very important, I think, for so many of us who join, is having that companionship on what sometimes feels like a lonely path. People that we have spiritual aspirations, we have there's a certain mindset where we know we're accountable for our time and the talent and opportunities we've been given as an amana. But also, we've got to pay those bills. We've got to help our kids or our parents or our community. and find ways to contribute. But finding the people in the program that also share these aspirations and navigating these, can you tell us about what kinds of people in the course? Because I get often questions about, oh, is it just for designers? Because I use design a lot in the title, and that is a fair at quick surface read of the title, people may think, oh, this is a course just for designers. And we've had many great designers join. Actually, some from Apple, Disney, I think as well, have come through in the last couple of years. But it's for many types of people. So maybe tell us a little bit about what kinds of people did you find, and also in our community on Slack as well.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was so, I guess, taken by, was the variety of people, the various walks of life, also how global, mashallah. I thought that was so beautiful that worldwide, even this is a beautiful example right now. We have people from Iraq, we have Australia, Toronto, the States, it's in Europe. So I noticed even in my own cohort, there were folks signing in from the UK, from Dubai, and then work-wise or industry-wise, there were people who were in the education field, people who were in tech, but maybe not on the creative side of tech and maybe wanting to venture out and develop their own ideas, or just trying to find a new and spiritually minded approach to how they work and how they live. And I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah, I think I agree that I think that's certainly one of the most energizing aspects, is just to see that these pockets of like-hearted people and communities really are everywhere. And I'm fortunate, and it feels like it's a great blessing to, when we start having these sessions, we do attract many wonderful, talented, creative, curious people from different backgrounds, from different types of understanding, sometimes through different paths, different spiritual traditions, even. And we get to explore together and go on this journey through a few weeks and beyond. So, one of the great things I think is, after the program, some of the connections and relationships that are formed. Sometimes I've seen businesses come together, I've seen good partnerships kind of form. Um, I've seen some really wonderful and unexpected outcomes from bringing people together in this way. And would you say that um, I mean, one comment that I've had that I appreciate is that, because the course intentionally tries to cover a range of things over those 5 weeks, is the tools and ideas, they're meant to be timeless, so we can redraw from. They're evergreen, in that a design mindset is something for all time. Have you found that you go back to certain things that we spoke about, and yeah, what's been your experience in terms of the applying what we learned?
That's actually one point I wanted to share was, so I took the course in June 2021. The ideas were marinating, but over time I found myself going back and revisiting concepts. I've got my notebook here with the different points that really stood out to me, the great books that were suggested on the reading list, and even just the different exercises like ikigai, the concept of ikigai, which you can rework, and finding your joy in life, which doesn't have to be a work related thing or a product related thing. And then also the idea of redefining success or defining success and being able to explore that. And the biggest takeaway I think that I apply regularly, Peter, is the concept of being at different seasons in our lives at different times. I felt that that
Mm,
concept alone, number one, was very comforting. So, recently
mm,
gotten to my 40s and, trying to figure out where the path goes, but being like, oh, I'm in a certain season of my life right now. It might look differently, but what, and then pairing the concept of success and what would that look like in this particular season. So I found the concept very, very, very easy to apply. And there was always a lightness after every session that I experienced, which I know at the time was quite early in the morning on my end. So it was a really beautiful way to start the day, each day.
yeah, alhamdulillah. And that's a great example. I mean, in fact, I would say almost everything in the program is really directly inspired by teachers that I've spent time with, books, people that I've learned from, ideas that that have come together and maybe fused from different places and then and reshared. And that one about seasons of life is was introduced to me by one of my mentors, who is a very successful woman. She's a little older now, but mashallah, she's had an incredible business career, but also just so spiritually rich with wisdom. And she's the kind of person that I have really benefited from and tried to then share wisdoms. And I asked her once, I was, sort of trying to navigate these two or three big things trying to do. And she's like, Peter, you can do anything you like in life, but just not at the same time. And she's like, there's a season in life for different things. At the time I had quite young kids. Now my kids are a little bit older, or getting older. And it's that type of little piece of insight that I was struggling to find in traditional startup entrepreneurial tools, where there's very much a lot of about, so much of it was just focused on, if you had the ideal conditions for a person that has abundant time, abundant energy, and very fewer commitments. I found that a lot of the entrepreneurial books, resources, there were great insights and tools and thinking that I was able to draw from them. But spending time like with this mentor was really what enabled me to help navigate how do we do that in a balanced way? How do we do that in a holistic way? And help prioritize, and then look at yourself, your state, your heart, knowing that that is central to everything that we might attempt to do, and we address that directly. And so in design professional circles, people will talk about and discuss human-centered design and user experience, which is absolutely how we help make great products. What I've tried to explore is heart-centered design. So looking right at the core of what we are and who we are and our deeper purpose and ultimate journey in life, and serving others in that way, helping transform communities, but understanding, as one of my teachers kind of reshared his quote, is that we're not, I'm simplifying it, but it's we're not human beings looking for a spiritual reality. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And I think if you take that mindset as someone who is looking, and you've been gifted with inspiration and talent and creativity, you can't help but want to build, or you have this spark to design or create or build and use those. So how do we accept and embrace those things and then do that in an appropriate way? That's the goal, I think, of the Heart of Design. And I think you're someone that I really appreciate, has embraced that, and a great example. And I very appreciate, Noor, that you're in our community and you're active in our Slack channels ongoing. So thank you, Noor. Is anything else you want to share, or any advice you might want to give to someone thinking about enrolling in the program?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, if you are interested in the program, I would definitely recommend it. What's beautiful is the sessions are recorded, so even if the time at the specific time with work or studies or family or whatever commitments you might have, and then you've got the takeaway where the slides are made available with the audio, and you can just work at it at your own pace, which I found also really beautiful. And the takeaway is also timeless, that you can work at it even after the course is done, and you're able to connect with the cohort afterward and the great Slack community, mashallah. So I would definitely, I'm still enjoying the benefits of it and able to apply the concepts even after about, yeah, almost 2 years now, I guess. So definitely would recommend
Amazing.
it if you're interested.
Thank you so much, Noor. Really appreciate your kind words, and inshallah we'll connect with you again. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah, my pleasure. Alaikum salam.
Great. Thanks so much, Noor. And it's been really a beautiful part of running the Hard Design the last 2 or 3 years, is really being able to connect with so many inspiring and wonderful people who they themselves bring so much to the program. So although I think I've helped frame and facilitate the structure and the platform, of course, what makes it so enriching for myself, but for everyone who joins, is just bringing together these different threads from around the world. And sometimes you can be in one of our breakout rooms or in our Slack conversation group, and have just really wonderful and enlightening conversations that might just help you that week. It might be just the energy or the kind of inspiration you need at that moment to either help have an opening for your next part of the journey, or it might just be a book recommendation, or hey, check out this podcast, or have you heard of this person? That's happened many times. So it's really a blessing to have that. I would love to invite anyone to ask any questions as well. This is a great time. I didn't want to keep this session running too long because I really like to respect everyone's time, and you've all made the time to join, and we're just heading over 35 minutes now. It's a great time. If you have some questions, I'm happy to answer them live. If you are short of time, or maybe if even you're watching the recording, you can actually always email a program coordinator, and she'll be able to help answer those questions, or bring myself in and I can answer any specifics you might have about the format, the program, how it runs. I think a really good point that Noor made, and actually Rashida's just asked here, great question, Rashida, is it suitable for someone from any background or field? So I'm going to just promote that as a question, and I can actually bring it up here. So I'll just click on start answering. So this is a great question, Rashida. Thank you for asking. Is the hard design suitable from any background or field? And in my experience, alhamdulillah, I'll say this. When I opened the course, after quite a few years of bringing together different thoughts and teaching workshops in design, and actually teaching university design, I was focusing primarily on the people that were reaching out to me for help. The people would often ask questions about, hey, how did you launch this business? How did you get this Islamic Kids app funded? How did you develop, or how did you get to work with this company or that? So a lot of the questions that are in the program were inspired by those range of individuals, and they were very diverse. And that is filtered through to the course cohorts. The people that join the Heart of Design are from quite diverse backgrounds. I think there is usually a core of people that are connected to some creative discipline, or some from maybe a design or technology background. There's usually so we have people from number of people from Google joining the next program, and they are diverse themselves. Some are early stage students currently at their institutions or universities or related types of learning. Others are more seasoned. Others are much further in their career and looking to reimagine or rejuvenate their interest in their next stage and next step. And I've had people from so many different walks of life. I can't even tell you. I've had people from so many different countries, different places at their career, and different disciplines and industries and sectors. We've had engineers who have come through and really had an opening around all of these concepts of design as a spiritual practice. I've had seasoned designers, veteran designers come through, who've been able to give feedback that they've opened their mindset and have been looking for this in their whole career. They've been looking for how do more spiritually rounded or grounded concepts apply to their career. I've had students that have come through and found new people and new ways to help develop their career and their ideas. And I've had people that are at the end of their career but looking for ways to give back and mentor, and they've been from different places and spaces and be able to give back through the program. So I'm pleased to report that it is quite broad, and everyone, I think, will find some benefit in it. I'm very happy for people to always try the program as well. And if they're finding it's not for them, or they're unhappy with it doesn't suit their time, or doesn't suit what they think after a couple of weeks, that's quite okay to withdraw from the program. And there's no fees for that. If people make a change in decision, that's quite okay, and I fully respect everyone's time and commitments. Yeah, everyone is very welcome. But I would say in particular, it has an appeal and a relevance for someone that has an entrepreneurial instinct or an idea that they'd like to develop and they'd like to take it a little further. It might be a product idea might be, that might be a physical product or a digital product or a program like an educational offering or a kids, something for a kids concept. We've had a number of people come through who are educators, or for young people, or it might be someone who's in an organization and looking to use design tools to make it more innovative and make it more creative and bring in a different kind of approach to their existing institution or organization. I've had a number of employers send their staff to the program as well, and I've had good feedback from the staff and the employers. So thank you for answering that question, Rashida. I think that's a great one. I can see a few other sessions coming through here. Let's have a look here. So thanks, there's some great questions coming through. And let's just bring up here. Okay, so Erwin asks the question, how many hours of commitment are required per week for the Heart of Design? Great question. So the short answer is, like a lot of things in the program, I like to be very flexible depending on someone's season of life. So if you, for example, have maybe you're a student, maybe you have a lot more, between classes, you have a lot more time to commit. There is number of modules that are kind of core, and there are a lot of optional extra activities that you can do. And I give, every week a recommendation for 2 core activities that I'd like to say maybe take 1 or 2 hours per week for those core activities, and then a few optional tasks if you have extra time. However, it's quite, I think, important to share that if your season of life doesn't allow you to do those 1 or 2 or 3 hours extra per week to do those activities, that's quite okay. There's no requirement to do those to complete the course. But of course, if you can take a little from those or even put in half an hour to work on one of those activities, you'll get a lot from it. But I'd recommend generally 1 to 2 hours outside of the normal 2-hour session per week is great. And then you get feedback on those. So if you share and upload your work on our group, then other people will be able to see and comment on that as well. And I usually am able to come in and spend some time giving people some feedback if they ask for anything specific there as well. So thanks, Erwin, great question. Okay, so in terms of results, so some people asking, okay, case studies using the Heart of Design. Okay, so Zafrul Nordin, thanks for asking. You mentioned it's great for startup founders. Are there any cases of startups that have used the Heart of Design framework? I think there's quite a number. There's been quite a few that are early stage, exploring and iterating their idea, and others that are further along that are more mature. So one of the companies that we work closely with that I think have benefited a lot from our Heart of Design thinking is LaunchGood. So if anyone knows launchgood.com, they're a Muslim crowdfunding platform that's been very successful in alhamdulillah, giving incredible support to many, many thousands of communities around the world. They've raised over $300 million in their efforts to support. So we are one of their great, I think one of their longest design partners. We work closely with their design teams, and we look at LaunchGood actually as an example of how we collaborate with them and bring together our heart-centered design work for them. I also look at some organizations like Greenpeace. We've done some design for Greenpeace, and we look at how our heart-centered approach works there. And we go through some specifics with 2 or 3 alumni from within the program and how they use the heart-centered design canvas which is a tool that we introduce. And we actually look at their specific canvases. And sometimes I can invite them actually into the course itself, into our group for people to ask directly. So that's there are some examples that come to mind. I think there's many more. Once you join the community, you're able to see the level of the diversity and the quality of people at all stages that have used the framework and used the approach. Great. Okay, some really good questions coming through. Okay, so Maria asks a great question. Maria asks, and welcome to the session. Thanks for joining. How do you see this course facilitating finding direction and inspiring courage for people who may feel lost or risky about their future path? This is a very beautiful question, and I sincerely feel this is this is a program I wish existed when I was early career and feeling like I needed some courage and direction. I didn't have anything like this 20 years ago. I had to find my way through it. It's, I think, highly relevant and appropriate for someone who is looking for direction, looking for some clarity, and some courage and confidence and companionship, to find some direction in their professional journey or maybe their personal journey, and um, how we're able to navigate the different priorities and challenges that we have. This is, I think, a great course for that. Particularly in module 2, we look at developing with a range of different optional tools that suit different people's experience, professional insight, and um, discipline. So there's the way that I always like to do something like this is not push one particular methodology. There's not one way is this is the formula. I don't think that applies, and I wouldn't presume to know exactly what you resonate with most. But what I can do is introduce, as I do in module 2, 4 different tools for helping you find direction, and we go through examples. And one of them, as Noor mentioned, is using ikigai. It's a Japanese concept of ikigai. And we look at that as a way to help find direction and clarity and purpose. And then we go through the following weeks, modules 3, 4, and 5, to building and developing towards those aspirations. So I hope it's a relevant one. A great question. Thanks for asking, Maria. Okay, so there's quite a few. Here's a really good question here. Okay, so thank you, Asma. If we start with an idea, what we'll have at the end of the program? Really good question. I would say it depends how developed the idea is. And if you are early in that and it's still foundational, then I'd like to think it will give you some very actionable steps of how you take that forward. And we actually do some of those as activities that help you research and iterate during the 5 weeks on that idea. So the idea is you come out with something where you've seen progress, you've been able to measure it, and using the tools and strategic design tools, feel more confident about it. You have some specific directions. You have design prototypes that you have either worked on or be working towards, and a really clear direction. Some people I've seen that had the time and really went deep with the program came out with working test websites for their idea, launched an Instagram as a test to see if people resonate with the idea. We're able to create, good sets of research to really push their idea along. So it depends at what level you want to accelerate through the program. But like for many people, I find that it's a mindset, it's confidence, and a set of tools that you can start to draw from and use over time, as Noor had said. So I think that's a really great question. Um, thank you for asking that one. There's a question here from Zach. Zach asks, if you can't attend the live sessions due to work commitments, is it sufficient to watch afterwards or live is preferred? Great question. And because the nature of planet Earth and different time zones, this is highly relevant and an eternal challenge that I face with hard design. But we're fortunate that many people attend from different time zones. However, very cognizant, and it is designed for people that also can't join just because of the time zone or they have the other commitments at that time. And the way that the recordings are done and the activities are shared is very much meant to be suitable and easily accessible. And most importantly for me is people feel included in their journey and they have that live companionship. So while you may not be on the live calls for live discussion necessarily, you're live. We have the chat group that goes live throughout the program. So you might find a handful of people on one part of the planet that are able to have live conversations, and you can get to know people that way. And it's meant to not just exclude people who are not watching live. It's meant to be inclusive. Of course, live is still the best way. That's just how it is. If you can join live the sessions, that's a wonderful way as well. That's a great way you can interact live with me. But I'm on the the platform, we used to have conversations at different parts of the day. So great question. Sultan is asking, will the program be beneficial for an individual looking for a career change? Yes, in my experience, yes. We've had a number of people come through that are fairly, perhaps fairly advanced in their career. I remember a lawyer in particular joining that just kept sort of saying, I feel like, when I was younger, I used to be into more creative practice and I used to draw, I used to have some visual practice that, I miss that energy and I feel like something's missing from their current career. We've had a number of people report that type of that type of experience, and they join thinking, looking for little practical ways to give them clarity, or activities, or even just sometimes the companionship that lets them access those creative, or sometimes even just looking for more like-hearted or spiritually grounded companions that are on that creative path, and that they're not having their current workplace or their current professional environment. So I have seen it help people develop their career paths and get clarity on practical ways and I introduce resources that I haven't developed, but that I've seen are very successful. There's particular books and activities within those books that I think are the best in class at giving people advice and develop their next career change. And I think Noor actually mentioned, one of the activities, and she's actually in a new career, which is great to hear. I didn't know that until today, so I'm very happy to hear. I think probably a good example there. So sometimes as well, just planting the right seeds and opening some dialogues and networks that make it feel more possible and give you give you confidence to start exploring that direction. And it may not be a drastic career change that's a switch. It might be gradual. It might be finding other ways to explore and nourish parts of yourself or your aspirations that are not, but you can't leave the current career, but you're looking for other ways to find that energy and to find that state. So I've definitely seen that in the program as well. All right, guys, we're heading towards wrap up time. I'll just see if there's any last question. There's quite a few beautiful questions that have come through here. We do, of course, have the program coordinator that you can reach up as well. I'll just see if there's any. I think I may have answered most of these. I think I've probably covered quite a few of these. Yeah, great. Okay, last one here. Just a practical question: what time are the weekly sessions? So you can see that on the website, on our social media, when they are in your time zone. So the way I've optimized them is usually for North America, different parts across North America timing, and parts of Asia. If you're in Europe or parts of the Middle East, people tend to get up early or join quite late. And so you have different energies in the room. So quite a few people do come and join very early in the morning, which I absolutely cherish and respect. If we have people joining, at prayer time, like, some people might be up at Fajr time in the morning and then join the class very early in the morning, and they bring beautiful, clean energy and freshness to the room when they're joining the session. And others might be at the end of their workday and they're sharing fresh ideas that they might have just been discussing or thinking about. Or myself, I'm usually teaching the class from Sydney, Australia, in my studio here. Then it's usually around mid-morning, late morning. So I'm caffeinated and able to share to balance all these different time zones. So I hope you'll be able to join us from wherever you are. So I might close up the session there. We're getting towards an hour. It's really been wonderful meeting a number of you, and I'm so happy that many people have joined the live session as well, and I hope others might join the recording later. You can reach out with any questions to the program coordinator. And just a thank you for spending some time with us, for being curious about the heart of design, whether it's for you or not, or something you might consider in the future. I'm really just very grateful to connect with you. I look forward to learning with you. If you want to get in contact or ask more questions, about my experience on my team in design, navigating all of these concepts and themes, you're more than welcome to have a look at the kind of work we do and some of the products and brands we've been able to help produce as well as a result of heart-centered design. So thank you all so much. I think I'll wrap up the session there and really look forward to meeting you all in the heart of design, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. Thank you.